We'll take them at the end. So, it's Women's Month. May is always Women's Month for Startup Grind, and that's why, of course, we would have had you anyway, but that's why particularly this month we really wanted to kind of talk a little bit about women in entrepreneurship. Okay, so my first question for you is, you have been featured in quite a few to watch lists, Armani, 10 Armani women to watch, 4 Armani young Armanis to watch, and lists like that. So what message do you have for young Armanis? I mean, you're still in your 20s, you started in your 20s, you have so much amazing things to go. What would your message be to young Armani women?
Okay, there's a lot of burden when people say something that makes sense, say something that matters. And honestly, I just, especially in our, I believe at this point in our lives, it's the only time we have to explore things. We usually, we choose our majors when we were 18, 19, and it's usually by that time we don't even know what we want to do in life. And it's when you enter your 20s, you get this kind of exposure and exposed to a lot of things that, you realize that I do not want to do this, I like doing this. And I think if I would say a message is just to try as many things as possible, as soon as possible. The younger you are, the better. It just helps you discover things about yourself that you probably did not know. And I do not think that every woman should think of, that they need to find a passion or they need to find something. Sometimes it's okay that you're not passionate towards a specific thing. So we have a lot of people who are, interested in a lot of things and in things that are more generic rather than specific, and that's okay. And again, there's a lot of women who are who want to be, who are not career driven, who want to focus on their families, and I think that's amazing as well. And so I don't when someone when I'm trying to say a message specifically around entrepreneurship, I don't believe that everyone or a lot of females want to be entrepreneurs or should be entrepreneurs. It's just about finding something that makes you happy, and in that pursuit of that happiness, whether it's a career, whether it's education, whether it's starting the family, whatever it is, just find it out as early as possible, because your 20s are the time that you have to just try different things. It's okay to mess up, and it's okay to eventually discover that nope, this is not it, and do something else. You have less responsibilities, especially if you're a student. Besides studying, no one really expects you to do anything else, so it's a perfect timing. I think that sums it up.
No, definitely. I mean, there's this concept in startups and entrepreneurship of failing quickly.
Yes.
And there is an interesting quote that I wrote here saying, failing is another stepping stone to greatness. So I was wondering, what would you say, if you could share with us a story of failure and what it taught you? I mean, it could be even a very tiny story. I feel like sometimes very small stumbles really teach you the most. But true. I'm curious to hear that from you.
Well, I think to me the clearest, let's say, failures that we've had were very early on in the development of Rudha. When we first started out, we thought, this is what we wanted it to be. We wanted it to be a space for people to come together, and we'll put memberships and people will buy them, and we'll price them this way and we'll call them this, and we just created things and we're excited about it, and we put it out into the market, and we saw that some people bought and people did not, and we kept on failing in a lot of the campaigns that we created in the very beginning. And to us it was, why is this happening? We could not wrap our heads around it, and we'd had to, whenever we'd see a decrease in the number of memberships, it would be like a huge alarm for us, like, we're going to close down tomorrow. It's not happening. It's not working. We're not getting enough, making money out of this. And I think these small failures when we are trying out things, but at the same time, we have being an entrepreneur is having the liberty to make immediate changes and not having to wait for someone else to be like, no, this is not working. Change it. It's you. You're the one who has to, make the call and change it. And this is, I feel, where kind of the team also comes in handy, where everyone is okay with picking and pointing the failures that we're doing in a team, and this is something that we've done constantly for, I think, a good 2-3 years in the beginning. I can't count the amount of failure campaigns, activities, designs, business models. Like, I don't think in the very first 2 months, and I don't know if this is too much information to share, but I don't think in the first year there was a month that we were just kind of, oh, we're good this month, we're making it, we're making rent, we're making salaries, we're making all of these things, and we were like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's happening. It was always anxious to the end of it, and it was always, okay, what if it doesn't work? What if it fails? What's plan B? What's plan C? What's plan D? So we were in this constant fail and do it differently, failing and doing things differently for a very, very long time, and it's hard. It's very hard. So I think, although I do believe that because we got used to thinking very fast and making fast changes is the reason that we managed to survive. We weren't afraid of just quickly changing things if they did not work.
And not being attached to those
and
ideas.
not being attached to those ideas. Muhammad has the saying, he always says this, he's like, we can't do the same things and expect different results. We just can't. And whenever we do that, it's just like, we just can't. So it's these things, it's the things that, again, and it's the team, it's the way that we dealt with each other and the way we were very honest about, making these changes is just that made us survive.
That's amazing. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs would relate to that about, always being anxious about being able to make that bottom line until you then pass that hurdle, and then you're kind of like, oh, okay, now I can relax a bit. Who would you say is one of your inspirations / heroes? Men, women, alive, dead, famous, you know them. But who would be an inspiration to you?
So that's the thing. I actually don't have like a role model or someone that I look up to. I look up to a lot of different people in different situations that they've been through. And it's mainly people around in my community. I always think about finding heroes. The heroes that actually make a difference are usually the ones that are closer to you, and the ones that you see them and you see the way they interact with a lot of things that happen in their lives. And it's those small, the way they react to different things that happens in their lives are things that I look up to. I look up to the way, my friends are like, for example, I look to the way one of my friends is completely persistent towards, achieving her degree and wanting to do something that, it was not something that she started up with. I really look up to that ambition and that, constant being so persistent towards it. Although it's probably something that a lot of people would think she does not need. But it's that persistent that I really look up to. I look up to my friends who decided to start families at a very young age. It's a huge responsibility, and being able to take that responsibility at a very young age. So to me, it's not a specific person, and it's not a specific figure. It's always people around me. It's always things that they did that have really impacted my personality. And I would say, your heroes should always be people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. If someone asks me who's my hero, I would really need to think about it for days.
Yeah.
I don't think I can think of one person. This is who I want to be like.
Exactly, and it's usually that way, and that's the kind of the beauty about. I think it's also the Arab community, because we're very close and we're very attached, to our friends, our family, and there's a lot of these, stories that happen, and you get to discover other people's personalities, and you really get to look up to. You get surprised with the way people handle things differently, and it changes things in you.
So before we take questions from the audience, I wanted to ask you, what's next?
Okay. So for us, honestly, we've been doing a lot of work in developing new products that we could help us do our job better and help other people in the ecosystem, build better products, build better services, work better with startups, work better with corporates. So we've been dabbling a lot into the development of products rather than just providing different services. So we've been doing a lot of coding and a lot of learning and a lot of so that's for us. That's one of the things that we are currently working on, and hopefully a few cool research pieces, case studies that we're inshallah going to publish very soon from Jabr.
We'll be looking out for that.
Inshallah.
Nipras, can you help us tell us if there are any questions from the audience? I can see there's a few.
There's this question. What about taking Omani startups to the global businesses and unicorns?
Okay. So the question is about taking Omani startups international and the potential for Omani unicorns. What do you think about that? We'll take them as two questions.
Okay, so potential of Omani startups internationally is it really depends on the entrepreneur themselves. A lot of entrepreneurs don't necessarily think globally to start with, and I think that's a big mistake. I think as an entrepreneur, as someone that you're building something, you should always think bigger. Try to make it, in your country. If it doesn't work, move to neighboring country. If it doesn't work, move to, national GCC. If it doesn't work, go international. Try to make it work. Because sometimes you're not. A lot of startups unfortunately fail in Oman. It's not because the startup failed. It's because perhaps the timing was not right in Oman, or the ecosystem is not right here. But looking at things on a more global perspective can really open up more doors for them. There's a lot of great examples for startups that actually made it internationally and in the GCC, and we're very proud of them because they're becoming success stories and they're inspiring younger startups to be just like them. So I do see a potential there, 100%. A unicorn. I think they're calling them camels in the beginnings or something like that. But I definitely see it. I don't think we are lacking in terms of talent in Oman at all. So there's definitely that potential, and it's just about timing.
Yeah. Timing, resources,
and
the right support as well.
Of course.
What was the other one?
There is this question: what about driving women, creating more success stories that motivate?
Okay.
Women driving more success stories to motivate. I mean, this I think is a great motivator right here. What do you think about that? Other women kind of motivating?
I do think that we need more, success stories out there. I do feel that our media perhaps does not cover, from the youngest women who are doing different things, not necessarily entrepreneurs, all the way to, generation of businesswomen that we've had in Oman for so long. Oman is very known for having, women in business and women entrepreneurs actually. And I think it's just the communication of all of these figures, the communication of all of these talents, and that is a gap. And activities and events such as Startup Grind help in spreading that culture, spreading that kind of awareness. Hopefully, there's more. Imagine Oman TV being broadcasting events like this, and that becomes a regular. Imagine seeing them on the newspapers, seeing them on different media channels. Then this would not be a problem, but it's not what's happening right now.
Do you find in my work with startups, I often find that there are female entrepreneurs as co-founders or sometimes as C-suite kind of positions in the background that don't necessarily want to be in the front.
Yeah.
So how can we make them more in the limelight and show the work that they're doing more?
Being in the spotlight doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be the ones doing interviews. They have to be the one being on TV or on on radio and things like that. It just could be about sharing stories, even if they're written, even if they're just shared in any form. But it's about showcasing an example in a specific way. And at the end of the day, I think it depends on the person's character. So even if they're more of the shy type and they don't want to be in the spotlight, I still feel that there's still a message, there's still a story that should be shared one way or another. And perhaps this person is actually doing that, with their peers, with their colleagues, and that's doing their part and giving back to the community, and that's just fine.
Yeah, definitely. There's more.
What are the key factors you consider to explore a new product or idea before moving to financials and IRR?
Okay, interesting.
So the question was, what are the
key factors?
Okay, the key factors.
To explore a new product or idea.
So how do we explore new products and ideas, and what steps, and then before getting to the financials and IRR? I guess, if you're then thinking of investment, that's an important consideration.
That's true. I think the first thing about developing a new product or a new service is ensuring that you are targeting the right type of people, and that the user, the person that you believe that you're solving a problem for, actually does feel that this is a problem and this is a necessity, not necessarily a luxury, and you are fixing, or that you are actually solving a problem. Because sometimes you can create products or services that solve symptoms of of this problem, but not necessarily the root problem itself. So I think that is very important. And two, I'd say to test it and try to find these early adopters. These two things.
So yeah, then it would be then product market fit kind of, and who are your customers and how do you test it quickly.
I get this a lot, but sorry. It's not COVID, I promise.
We hope not. We hope not. Any other question?
Yeah. Looking at the regional development in startups, are Omani startups attracting the attention of the global investors or regional investors?
Are Omani startups attracting the attention of regional and global investors?
I think so. Again, I'm not in the probably financial scene much. I do hear from startups that are in the space and from co-founders that we're connected to. But again, I do think and I do believe that we have the talent. Perhaps the growth process for a lot of the startups here is slower than neighboring markets, but I do think that we do have that potential.
And I think it's important to get that local kind of support. So the international support sees that locally you're supported, therefore we can get behind this. So I think the answer to that question would be yes. Like you said, there is talent, get local backing, and then international will follow. Would you agree?
I would agree. You put the way that you put your words inside, inshallah. Can't compete.
Thanks.
Should entrepreneurs lead the project or hire CEOs to take it forward?
That's a tough one. Should entrepreneurs hire CEOs, right, to take it forward? It's very hard to attach yourself as a founder to your venture and not want to manage it hands-on.
It is very hard, but that sometimes might be a smart move if the founder themselves believe that they are more capable of doing, let's say if it's a tech company and the founder is more tech-oriented, therefore making the founder more focused on the product development because they know it best, because the CEO is required to have more than just technical background. They need to have business development, they need to have ability to explain their idea, they need to have so many different set of skills, not just technical skills, again based on my very, very, very humble experience. But if they do believe that being more focused towards the core of the value of what it is that they're bringing to the market and having someone else work on the management aspect of the startup, that is a very brave move. But at the end of the day, as founders, I feel that unless you feel that the founder themselves don't have the ability to adapt these skills and actually learn them themselves, so going for someone else to be a CEO is a wise decision, I'd say, but it is a very hard decision to make. But again, I think as founders, we all want our products or our services to be out in the market, and that's their number one goal. So I don't know. I don't have a personal opinion towards it. I do feel it's very, very hard, and it could be very, very challenging, honestly.
Recognizing what you bring to the table, and if a CEO can bring something complementary,
yeah,
then it's
definitely
always better.
That's true. Yeah.
Crowdsourcing or crowdfunding in Oman?
A lot of I wishes here, but again, crowdfunding, crowdsources need to be regulated to exist in Oman. Yeah, you'd know better.
I think I saw something in the news recently.
Yeah.
Of the first crowdfunding project done by one of the banks. Does anyone remember this? No? I saw it in the news. Oh, I wish I had it.
Crowdfunding, not the sandbox?
No, not the sandbox. It's crowdfunding, but it wasn't for a startup. It was for, I think, kind of a charitable kind of venture, but it was crowdfunding on an electronic platform. I feel like there was something there. So maybe that's the first step.
I think it's creating the making it very clear or trying to create the culture for that. If a lot of people are asking for it and a lot of people are requesting, that as a service, then perhaps regulation can be made. And if a lot of people are ready to crowdsource or crowdfund for projects for startups, and if that culture exists, it might drive regulations there. So
If
a
you
lot
have
of wishful thinking.
put this question, if you have an idea and a product ready, you can submit it to the CBO sandbox. They'll consider it. Keep doing it. Eventually, they'll
a lot of people. Yeah, that's true.
Any other questions?
If Apple had started in Oman, would it be as successful as it is?
If you didn't hear it, if Apple was started in Oman, would it have been as successful?
God knows. I don't know. It's really, Apple started in when?
80s. Yeah, it was Macintosh in the 80s.
Exactly.
So. And Apple failed many times.
Many times.
I mean, it went up and down and up and down, and Steve Jobs left and came back. So
there's a lot of like story there. I wouldn't know, obviously, but I think the opportunities or the chances that they had is because of where they were, the timing that they've started. So there's a lot of things that came into that affected the reason why they managed to succeed eventually. And so I don't think it might be because of where they were and the way that they
there's some of the family businesses that started here in the 60s and 70s
and they're doing
that are not as big but huge, global, international. So timing, persistence.
That's
Fatma already said. Yeah, that is a funny question.
Okay.
What would be a good platform for entrepreneurs to pitch their like in Oman?
That's a very interesting question. So
would it be Ibda, the Rudha kind of?
But there might be even as a platform.
Lots of cryptic.
It's like it's trying to not say too much without saying.
Watch this space.
So please do, watch this space.
Pitch platform coming soon.
Inshallah. Do keep in touch. Whoever this is, message me later. Talk.
Okay, so that's it from the online questions. Anyone here? Do you have? I mean, we only have a couple of minutes left. Does anyone have any questions? Mohammed, Fatma's co-founder, who she keeps referring to, is here. She keeps pointing to him.
Asking for advice, like, am I doing good?
So, do you guys have any other questions?
Besides what you think of your boss?
I have a very tough boss that I deal with. I have actually, if we can talk about team, because it's something very, very crucial for every entrepreneur, I think, and it's something that an entrepreneur should not take lightly. A team could make or break the entire idea and the entire business, and it could almost guarantee your ability to move forward and to grow if you have the right type of skill sets, and complementing skill sets, complementing personalities are very, very important. You do not all need to know same things. You do not all need to have same backgrounds. You don't need to be friends, but do acknowledge and appreciate what everyone brings to the table, and have an open mind, open heart policy. I think are two things for teams that we get, because we get a lot of startups asking us, how can I recruit my co-founder? I need a CTO. I need this and that. How do I manage? How much shares do they get? Because I can't offer them salaries and all of these things. So it's before even thinking all about these details, is know who you need, know what type of skill sets, what are the things that would complement your business and would complement you in that business before even forward. So sorry, just on the side.
No, that's a really good point, I think, and something that's often maybe overlooked, because what if you have someone very close? And actually you're not complementary in a business venture, what do you do then?
I think honesty is key on these things. They might be helpful, they might do things because of the relationship aspect of things, but on the long term, you're not doing yourself or the business any good by keeping them close. And I think having that conversation as early as possible, and just again having this open heart, open mind policy towards talking about everything and every step that you do. It's okay to argue and it's okay to fight even as co-founders, but at the end of the day, having a CEO figure is very important. Someone who eventually can give the last answer, be like, okay, we're closing this. This is the decision that we're making, and that's that. Having that figure that everyone agrees that if whenever in disagreement, this is the way that we do things is very, very important, especially in small teams. I mean, we're three, and Mohammed has to do that most of the time because we not never, but we hardly agree on things immediately. It does take a few hours of discussion and going back and forth, a few days of debating on things. But at the end of the day, he would be the one be like, okay, we've heard all of what everyone has to say. This is what I think we should do based on X, Y, Z. And I think we should just close it right here, and everyone would just agree and we move forward. Because you need someone who can make a decision, be responsible of that decision. And teams not easy, but yeah.
No, that makes sense. Having the kind of final word from someone that everyone respects, and it's like, okay, it wasn't my choice, but I respect your decision.
Yes, exactly.
Makes sense. Yeah. So, any words of advice before we end the session?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on Startup Grind. It's just, again, very, very great to have the event back in Rudha. And for everyone who's like an entrepreneur or looking into starting their own venture at stage, just start right away, do your best, fail as much as you can, fail quick, and get up as fast as you can. Do visit Rudha for support. There's a lot of support entities that could provide you with, again, like-minded people just like you, who've probably been there, done that kind of a situation, who can help you in your next steps in your ventures. So feel free to, come in through our doors. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for attending, both physically and virtually. Thank you, Fatma, so much for doing this. I mean, I thought it was fascinating. I'm sure everyone else did as well.
I hope
Thank
so.
you, the Rudha team, Yusuf, Mohammed, everyone else for making this happen. And do stay in touch. We're on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, we have a mailing list that you can sign up to. It's Startup Grind Oman or Startup Grind Oman. And we're hoping to really have more in-person events where it will be a good opportunity for you to network. Most of them will be here in Rudha, so then you can also take that opportunity to come and pick Fatma's brain, pick Mohammed's brain, and just network with like-minded people and fellow entrepreneurs and startups. And we hope to have both local and international speakers soon. So do stay in touch, do follow along, and we're looking forward to future events. Thank you.
Thank you.